You hurt me, you did, several times. It hurts to admit that we're no different. I find it hard to commit, but you don't even try. Still I'm better with than without you. Oh, I'm on it, I want it, but why do you seem to call in your eyes? I can't tell if you're here or you're out there. Do you wanna be out there? You don't need to be Prince Charming to me. I just need this to be real. I don't need no fairy tale. You don't need a killer dragon for me. Ooh, I don't need no fairy tale. Still, every time, whatever it is, I keep on trying. 'Cause it ain't hard to forgive when you know what it's like. That's why I'm better with than without you. Oh, I'm on it, I want it, but why do you seem to call in your eyes? I can't tell if you're here or you're out there. Do you wanna be out there? You don't need to be Prince Charming to me. I just need this to be real. I don't need no fairy tale. You don't need a killer dragon for me. Ooh, I don't need no fairy tale.
Empty hearts and neon lights, they're playing with my mind. Gotta get out of here tonight. Oh, I wanna run off and fly. And I'll tell myself it's fine to be alone, just to find somewhere that finally feels like home. Oh, oh, oh. I hate all this overthinking. Oh, 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 oh. The more I swim, the more I'm sinking. Take me to a world of silver
Exeedme revolution going on. Back to the Exceedme blockchain tournament. I am joined by a fresh face today. It is Michael Yumi Cassidy here alongside me for our second semi-final of the day. Of course, we do have Utrust versus Aleph.im coming up a little bit later. Some of those AMAs that you guys are getting used to as well. But indeed, your first foray into things here to give a little check, give a little look into some of these blockchain companies, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm going to be that well versed in a lot of the vernacular and what's kind of going on, but I've been following along. You know, I've obviously kind of watched through some of what you and Wolfie have been doing on the stream, and some games actually I'm surprised have gone as close and competitive as they've been so far.
Yes, indeed. Aleph last time out were in that crazy, never before seen scenario while I've been casting at the very least 4v4 double overtime epic. That is kind of inexplicable, but it was a hell of a lot of fun. It was quite late for Jack, bless him, and he was starting to lose his mind a little bit. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then Utrust on the other side of things, I guess, are kind of the team to beat. They really do have the best lineup on paper, and so far have performed very, very well also.
Yeah, it almost feels like cheating that you've got a couple players that actually play Counter-Strike professionally, and then you've got more people that seem to just be kind of diving in feet first and seeing how far they can get. So, I mean, if you don't pull through with some kind of current or they are current players at the moment, then I guess there really is no hope. But yeah, the brackets on screen for you. We've kind of talked through a little bit about how some of the teams have got there, but I mean, we talk about some of the games being close, but that was all in the first round of games. But then there were some blowouts, right? We have these 16-6 score lines as well, even now through into the semifinals.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting one watching Utrust play the first time. Both Jack and I said that Ocean Protocol, looking at them, any other team that we'd seen so far, they probably could have taken them down. But Utrust, just that unstoppable force. Obviously, on Monday, we covered Umbrella against the Chain Guardians. Umbrella making it through there. Chain Guardians, again, another team with actually a good amount of experience, but not as much experience recently, right? It's been a few years, and they're all very, very busy with the projects that they're working on. And the last time that they played before Monday was back on the 28th, I believe, of February it was. But all the same, they hadn't really been approaching the game all that much, so it makes a lot of sense. But obviously, we're going to be left to decide who will be joining Umbrella. That's the big question for me. I'm kind of excited to answer it. We have developed our own little meta within this tournament that, you know, T sides are a bit more dominant just because you have control of the pacing. Sometimes, you know, that one individual can pop off and carry the squad. We're seeing a lot of these puggy best of one maps, your Dust 2, your Mirage, your Inferno. I think that's pretty much all we've seen so far, so maybe we'll get a bit of variation today. But it's been a lot of fun so far, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even coming into this where we're kind of painting this picture of Utrust being this some colossus figure that you need to be taking down and preventing from going to the finals. Even the idea that Aleph.im came through when they started 4 players down first, and then they pushed it to overtime to then win it in a 4v4. Like that in itself is like a crazy storyline. The fact that they got there's like a crazy amount of tenacity to pull that back when one of your players is gone to the ether. You don't know where he's moseyed off to, and then you still somehow make it into the semifinals. That's crazy.
Yeah, they've really had an interesting journey getting here. A lot of fun to watch, and recommended that you guys go back, make sure you follow in and all that good stuff. But go back and maybe give it a bit of a watch if you're wanting to get that. And we've got all the AMAs as well. We'll have a couple of those coming up this evening, and that's kind of what all this is about. Sharing the information and learning more about these companies and what it is that they provide on. And around the blockchain industry. So it's really really interesting stuff, and yeah, I'm glad that we're getting to know a little more. I think we should be just about ready to kick our first one off in a second here. Yeah, indeed. Okay, so I believe if he's ready to go, we've got Jonathan across from Aleph.im for our first AMA. Hello, hello.
Hello.
All right, good to have you on again, sir. And you will also be playing. Keep an eye out. Are you playing again today, or you were last
Yep,
time?
I am.
Yeah. All right, brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Moshi on the server for you guys maybe watching at home that wanna support Jonathan here. But kicking off into the questions, obviously our second round of questions with yourself. The first one that we've got for you, very very simply, is Aleph.im a blockchain?
Well, it's not a blockchain. It's a peer-to-peer network that speaks the blockchain language, can write on the blockchain, accept messages from users of different blockchain. They will just sign message with their wallets and it will be accepted by our network, but it's not a blockchain. And we can talk to a lot of different blockchain, be it Ethereum, Polkadot, Cosmos, Solana, or any others. That's that's perhaps one of the best place of why we aren't a blockchain, because we don't have their limitation. We can scale to like petabytes of data, millions of messages coming. It's not an issue, because we like get the best of the blockchain world, of the best of the peer-to-peer world.
Just to remind you guys, by the way, at home, before we get into the next question that are watching, we are going to be taking questions from the Twitch chat, and I believe a few awards for that may well be rewarded. So, you've got to catch my attention, get a question in the chat here for Jonathan, and what Aleph.im are all about. The second question I got for you, though, buddy, in what way are people able to contribute to the network?
That's a good question. Um, by contributing, if you mean like getting paid also by the network on like helping the network, we have a few ways currently. You can stake your Aleph in nodes to like say, okay, I want this node to be live, this node to be live, this node to be live, and then you can get paid by the network, something like 18 or 19% APY for that. You can also run core channel nodes on the network. Um, on this way, get paid by the network for running them. Soon we'll also have the resource node. You can just put a machine with like hard drive space on computing power and get paid for it, because that's what we do. It's a decentralized cloud. The idea is that anyone can just put computers and get paid for it. um, Another way to contribute is also to providing liquidity with your Aleph tokens. We have liquidity incentive on Uniswap pools, on Balancer pools. There is also one on SushiSwap. And we announced today liquidity provider incentive on the Binance chain on PancakeSwap. You just add liquidity to it, and you get paid by us for doing that. So these are quite good ways to contribute and help, and also get paid by the network to like do that.
Okay. There's an awful lot to unpack there for sure. I believe we don't have any questions from the chat just yet. We've got one left here that's prepped. So again, I'm going to push the chat to ask us some questions for Jonathan, so we can get some more out of him. But the third question here So lately we've seen like a new node being created by the Ubisoft Strategic Innovation Lab. How would a company like Ubisoft benefit from using Aleph.im?
That's a pretty good question. The Ubisoft Entrepreneur Labs is the division of Ubisoft that runs their incubator for startups. So obviously, it might lead to some collaboration with their incubator. We are also working with them towards storage systems because a multinational like Ubisoft transfers like terabytes of data continuously all over the world. They have studios in Montreal, in Paris, in the United States. They have studios everywhere. They need to transfer data and store data in a lot of places. And they also have dormant servers. And if companies can get paid for their dormant servers, it can be useful for a big company. And they can also use resources outside. So that's somewhere where we can work together too. And obviously, being a gaming company, there are a lot of use cases in the NFT space and in the video game space that could be interesting in the future. We will be able to give more details later because right now it's not totally public. Well, the node is public, but we will make more announcement later on that partnership.
Okay, very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. We're getting a few questions in from the chat here. So the first one that I'm going to go with, will you maybe have an ambassador-like program somewhere down the line?
It's a good question. That's something that we really envision. It will mostly depend on the market, on where would the ambassador be. Um, because to make an ambassador program well, you need to see how to segment the zones of the ambassador. Is it a geographical zone? That made sense in a pre-COVID world where people were going to conference and talk, etc. That could be good to have ambassadors there. Right now, it's a bit different because events are global and people just do events like we are doing with video chat. So that makes things a bit trickier. We need to see how to architecturate that ambassador program so that it bodes well in an online first world.
Indeed, indeed. I think certainly the talk about COVID and whatnot definitely resonates and is going to make certain areas a little difficult to pull off. Final question I've got here, once again from the chat. Is there perhaps any information, any exciting information that you can share with us that's coming up in the next few months?
Well, hopefully on the Ubisoft side, as we discussed, there will be some new things on that area. We also are working with Solana and Serum on a social dashboard, on social trading dashboard with them, which might be some big thing in the near future. There will likely be some new integration, and we have a few big things coming up on the Aleph network, which are the resource node and the virtual machine, which will be really big milestone this year. So that will also be a big part. And we have a few surprises too for the next few months.
All right, there you go. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for joining us once again. I wish you all the luck moving forwards in your
Thank you.
upcoming game.
Thank you. I will need it.
We'll see. We'll see. We will see indeed. But yeah, once again, thank you very much, Jonathan, for coming on. Should be joined back by Michael here, I believe, on the voice. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello. All right, wonderful stuff. Now we get to talk about the Counter-Strike. Okay, all the blockchain information and whatnot that you and I've been learning, but of course this is your first week, so we get to move into what we know about now. The CS should hopefully be moving into the veto quickly here, but we do also, of course, I guess the highlight for you guys, we've got a couple MVP giveaways going on at the same time. One already given away last week, and then, of course, another one for the semi-final here, and one moving into the final, as provided, maybe if you guys don't know, by the Chain Guardians. Unfortunately, last week, we actually lost them as they were knocked out in the semi-final. My man, Robbie. Love Robbie if he's
Mm.
watching. Love you, mate. But nonetheless, they have provided these blockchain collectibles for the MVP of each game. Sushi Chef Rio. Learn to take that one nice and slow because it's a little difficult to get through. And Hero, of course, being provided by those guys.
Yeah, the cards look sweet, man. I don't really, obviously I'm coming in a little bit more blind, but just the idea of having something that is not only collectible but also has some sort of integration with one of the teams, that's quite cool. I think the artwork is kind of on point as well. So I'm all for that. But whether I can get a blown up version poster somewhere, that's that's still yet to be determined.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. It's pretty good stuff. And once again, a huge thanks to them. I think they're worth a few grand altogether, so that's pretty good
Ooh.
stuff. If you're coming away with the MVP. But we are getting into the veto here, of course, folks. As you can see on your screens right now, we've decided the servers, the all-important server decision. I think there's been a little bit of miscalculation on that in the past, and now we move into the maps.
Well, I'm kind of in that same boat where you're talking about these more puggy style maps that can really come through. So the fact that Mirage is already gone, or may raise some eyebrows, but I do doubt we go to Train or Overpass because I feel like those are far too nuanced for right now at the very least. If we do, I do worry because I think Utrust, if that in some respects will have a lot of advantages given that they have the extra level of experience. And so naturally it has come down to Dust 2 and Inferno. So that trend continues, I suppose. We don't get too much variance in terms of the maps, and it makes sense, right? Like if you're coming in with maybe more limited experience, you don't want to be thrown about 4 different maps within the pool, because even pro players take a long time to adapt to maps that are within the pool for long enough. There are some that even hard, especially in the pro scene, will hard veto a certain map. I know if we're referencing the pro scene, OG's Alexi has basically never played Vertigo in his life, and I don't think he intends to. But that's information from a few months ago. Maybe they have been adapting it into their map pool.
Yeah, possible, but I feel like if it's not there if you can't see it, so that's kind of the way that maybe
Head in the
he
sand
looks to approach things. Yeah, and I mean they beat Big the other day, so in fact I think it was yesterday. I don't really know. All the days blend into one at the moment, to be honest, Michael. But certainly as to be expected. Like I mentioned a little earlier. Mirage, Dust 2, Inferno, that's pretty much all we've seen. And in these best of ones, I don't think teams want to be on maps that indeed have a bit more nuance to them. And indeed against a team like Utrust, that certainly might have a recognition for some of that nuance. So certainly is an interesting, like I say, internal meta that we've developed in a way. And maybe Utrust have used that to their advantage, done a little bit of prep on the predictable maps ahead of time.
I mean, if you're Utrust, you probably don't need the prep, right? You can just leverage these players that will likely have a higher mechanical ceiling, given that they are practicing every day versus those that are maybe just in it for a bit of fun and seeing if they can maybe get their hands on the MVP every so often if they do perform. But again, I don't want to put this in a position where Aleph.im are considered this vast underdog, because they've shown that they have this level of tenacity that even when the situation may seem dire or the numbers don't favor them, they have shown that they can sort of vim and vigor their way through into the game.
Yeah, indeed, I think so. And they are again our seasoned veterans, as things have panned out over the quarterfinals and whatnot. It was a crazy game. I'm trying to forget it, but it's not easy.
Start
it was
referencing this for
so
regular
wild.
broadcasts as well. Just like I've seen some crazy stuff. We remember that 4v4 overtime game.
Yeah, double. Try double overtime.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't even
indeed,
realize it went to double. Yeah.
going all the way. But yeah, I think look, it's again another one of those kind of matchups where you can't really beat around the bush. I think there is going to be a discrepancy between a couple of the players for sure in terms of the skill cap. Like I say, I think there were a few players on Aleph for me that looked good and certainly did a lot of the heavy lifting in the overtime game. But whether they can continue to do that against a squad like Utrust, I think for me we didn't see an awful lot out of them, but then we didn't necessarily need to. An Ocean Protocol in that quarterfinal looked like a decent enough team. They looked like they certainly knew how to approach things well, but just had the worst, pick of opponent, unfortunately. So we'll see moving into today. I think there's a little bit of hope that they could certainly make things competitive on the left side of things if indeed those same individuals pop off. But for me, I just think Utrust are the out-and-out favorites.
Yeah, I think it was Phipps and Torres that were those two couple players on LF that were doing really, really well for the side. Whereas, I mean, you've got that duo of Watts and OBJ that are currently on a team together. Where I think it's Frizen is like the team manager. So I imagine he's this linchpin that sort of coax them into this, just like saying like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. Come enjoy a little mini tournament that we've got going on. It'll be fine. And then I imagine they tried to hide that as best they could from the other teams, instead of saying like, yeah, we've got a couple of pro players to play for us. Because again, I feel like that's almost cheating. Like how are you bringing these people in to just to frag out as hard as they do?
Yeah, well,
yeah, cautiously optimistic, I'd say, is the approach that I'll take with Aleph.im, but we can't negate the fact that there is going to be a bit more polish, I expect, from Utrust.
indeed. Not quite sure the game seems to have started 4v5. Not like this. Not again. The flashbacks to to the other game. It seems Aleph have got some kind of curse on them that they'll never have a clean 5v5 game. But yeah, I think we've got to pause very, very quickly into the knife round. So I would imagine they're trying to get that player back. To me, it seems like, usually you have that connect, the game's going to start, and then they disconnect like 2 seconds before it does or something. So I'm not quite sure what's happened.
Hey man, maybe they just figure they need the handicap. They were so successful 4v5 last time. That's now their training block. They've been running marathons with ankle weights, and now when it comes to the playoff games, they start removing the ankle weights. Suddenly they move at the speed of light. The legs just feel that much lighter. That's a ridiculous idea to even think about, but try and glorify it where I can, if that's possible. But yeah, hopefully that we can get a nice fair fight. So there's no overwhelming caveat where, okay, one team had 5 players, the other had 4. So is this an equal competition?
Oh, there we go. OBJ is back in. So, and he's certainly the Danger Man was looking pretty impressive last time out, and as far as I'm aware, is kind of the most active player within the pro scene, within the Portuguese scene for them. I'm aware we're on a little bit of a radio cast at the moment, but it is just the knife round. It's not the end of the world, and it looks like the nice guys are going to be buying us a bit of time anyway, because Moshi is miles away from the action.
Well, I mean, speaking of, the little AMA that you guys did was quite insightful. Just being able to even sort of hint and nudge at future developments in terms of the integrations with other sort of esports brands. Like I was fully unaware of the work that Rainbow Six seemed to be doing in that respect, or Ubisoft. Not Rainbow Six specifically, but yeah, Ubisoft. Just having a program that sort of centers on something like that.
It is interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I think the Ocean Protocol, who obviously are not here at this stage, but they were running their project is kind of like Steam, but on the blockchain. Is very, very basic, I'm sure, way that I'm surmising it, but all the same, to me, that's what I gained from it, and the amount of teams that they're working with, the amount of developers that they're working with and whatnot to get it on there, to get their games involved. It's pretty interesting. It's very, very interesting indeed, and hopefully we see more from these companies within Exeedme tournaments. As far as I'm aware, the plan is to run future tournaments and whatnot. We'll see how it goes. But there's no time to talk things over, Michael, because there's a B rush coming in, of course. There's 3 players here, but Mail going to be leading the way. Oh, no, and he's absolutely destroyed this hold. 3 players and 3 deaths very quickly after the fact.
See, this is where, in traditional circumstances, you know, you just go, probably save in a position like this, right? You've already lost the site. You have no real hope of coming back into this, so saving armor is always nice. But they are going to still fall Utrust. What a dominant display to start things off. Just running straight through and finding every single entry they needed to.
Yeah, I mean, super clean. No real sweat off their brow, to be honest with you. And that may be a dictator of the pace here with that round. But we'll see. We'll see moving forwards how Aleph.im are able to bounce back. The eco seems to be coming in. A little bit of armor bought up by Dio. A few P250s across the board, but not an awful lot. This is another thing as well. Some of these teams have a very basic approach to things like economy and structure and whatnot, right? We see the vast majority of teams force up here. But we'll see. They do have a stack on the A bomb site, something a little bit different. OBJ manages to find 2 before going down, but unfortunately no mid and brackets presence. Yeah, it means you get easily flanked out. Easy stuff, couple of kills, bit of damage, but Utrust moving up to a quick second.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Utrust moving in towards the stack, things can go wrong from there, but just, again, leveraging the additional ability for players to kind of just pop off on the Utrust side, maybe leads them into a bit more security in that respect. But now Aleph.im are on weapons, so this is where I can get a little bit more interesting. We'll see more traditional setups splitting between the B and A bomb site in a 3-2 or 2-3 fashion, because I decided to say B instead of A first. And I mean, Utrust are already throwing a lot of sort of protocol utility. Just Molotov towards Banana, make sure that they can't push. They've been throwing flashes, throwing some presence into the middle, and they found a pick in the arches because it is a massive gap in the defensive, and Aleph.im get caught completely off guard. Keck is at that B bomb site. I don't think they quite know where he is, but everywhere is compromised. He might just be able to sneak his way out of the situation, but being run down, there's just no chance. Utrust are making sure that this is as uncomfortable as possible for Aleph.im to start.
Yeah. It's not looking too good straight out of the gate, is it? You know, we're only 3 rounds in, but the speed and aggression that Utrust are employing here and the ease, ultimately, that they are taking these rounds in, it does not bode very well.
If I'm not mistaken, Dio was the guy that vanished for Aleph.im.
Yeah, I believe so. It was all a bit weird. Some references to Tenacious D. And I think he was also their money mule. Does seem he's been playing the game a little bit more. Here we go. Here we go. This is spicy.
Ooh.
There you go. Frizzing going to get caught off guard. Keck on the 5-7. Gets himself a double at the back end of the B bomb site on the hard eco pretty much for everybody. I think Dio had bought up an M4, but everyone else on a P250 or a 5-7, nothing too flashy. It's suddenly a 1v4 for OBJ. Does have the bomb in hand, does have a lot of time. Very little information to work with at this point, and obviously the numbers stacked against him.
They're certainly going to make a good go of it. Dio the first to fall, so they know that OBJ is still over towards this B side of the map. Not making any egregious rotations as of yet, making sure that there's no chance that OBJ can double back towards A and catch them off guard. They have called for some minor reinforcements, though. They're giving OBJ a lot of respect, a lot of space that he can take away. But this is ultimately buying time for Aleph.im. And really, the objective here for OBJ is to get this bomb down and try and do it safely. So he does it actually in a very exposed position, expecting that they won't peek. And OBJ, of course, he's found 3 kills, and it's all just Moshi. He was the man left to defend that A bomb site, but OBJ is looking to cement a round here for Utrust by pulling things back in the clutch. He seems to have the read. The idea that Moshi is coming in from Banana, and there is OBJ with 4. Utrust, 4 rounds to their name as well.
That is a rough one to stomach for sure. I think there is such a thing as giving too much respect, right? I think once they had a bit of an idea of where he was at, he just needed to be hunted and overwhelmed. Much easier for you to 3v1 rather than give him 3 1v1s, which is kind of how the end of that round goes. You know, he finds the first, maybe that's your information play. You're kind of, okay, we know where he's at, now we
Yeah.
can start to encroach, that kind of thing. Okay. Renner going to open up as well. Yeah, they're getting away with a lot of criminal stuff here on the T end. It's really looking rough. I think morale-wise as well, that one's going to knock Aleph
Yeah.
4-6, the
Okay.
double spray down. Easy stuff. Alox over on the A-bomb side, though, getting a triple. Here we go, catching a few players off guard. I believe this was the player that wasn't in last time. You mentioned Torres. Torres is, in fact, one of our admins, right? Works at Exeedme and whatnot. And I believe he had to stand in because one of the players couldn't connect. I think that's who Alox was. And you can see, maybe, would have resulted in a quicker victory for them rather than the double overtime, because this is a great individual performance so far. It is once again left in a 1vx situation, but this time it is Renner 2 Hacks looking for the ace to clutch up round number 5.
For now, they were none the wiser, but that bomb being planted does signal that it is towards that B bomb site. So it will come down to, I think, who will ace first on either of these two teams. Rena needs to get 2. And they are doubled up. There is a utility to try and deal with this player towards that new box position, but Rena, oh, that is sharp. And another set of taps for Utrust. They've had back-to-back clutch rounds here on this T side, and it's just hard to beat.
Goddamn. Yeah, I mean, if one is not going to set you back, I think 2 in a row certainly is going to really knock you down. To be honest, the morale, the confidence, it's tough to bounce back from in a scenario like that. That one's a little harder, I suppose. You can't really do too much when an individual pops off in that way. But certainly the one before, it's really going to use your word, cement their position, unfortunately. Perhaps in the back of their minds as well. I think they know from what we've been saying, from what, you can just kind of infer from watching previous games, this is a formidable opponent at the very least, regardless of where they come from or whatever. They are looking solid. And there's a couple of cracks in the left side of things. Certainly work has been done. I think it is looking more comfortable, but there's still a couple players who are not quite there. Through the smoke, Fipsy going to be left pretty low. Awkward fight here. Dio holding down short. Turret down short. Doing a good job of it so far. A little bit of damage tagged off, but no frag for a while.
Yeah, they're already through CT spawn. Frizen has just made it through the arches, so he's looking to flank. But Keck actually reading into it rather well. So now they know that this B site is the one that they are intending to attack. And Phipps is still at the back of the bomb site. They didn't clear him out. 1 kill found. Ren is still sort of dancing with him on the site. And while Decoy tries to act as a fake and just pull some presence towards that A site, that bomb can get planted at B. While Alox, still sitting at the back of the bomb site, has pulled it to the 1v1.
Certainly doable here. No kit available. Time going to be of the essence. And a vague idea for Renner of where he's coming from. Makes it to tree as well. Gotta check your angles here. Making a lot of noise, so it's certainly going to be difficult for Alox. Does peek out. It's an awkward fight. And Renner just ducks under the bullets to find the headshot. 6 in a row for Utrust. Certainly getting closer. You can say that for Aleph.im, right? It has been tough. Some hard rounds to stomach. But they are getting there. That one is a 1v1 rather than a 1v3, 1v4. So it's slightly easier to work with. The tilt Negev.
Yep, we've decided to go this route, have we, here on Aleph.im? And the thing is, like, they're getting closer in a lot of respects. The fact that you are saying that is getting it to be a much closer a set of rounds than it may appear just by looking at the scoreboard. It is very much true. I mean, Utrust are getting these entries, but then they're getting caught off guard by some of the re-aggression from Aleph.im. So it seems like they have a bit of a plan as to how they want to approach it should they start to fall behind. But Utrust are just going to continue riding this confidence train. And Frizen, what a way to open up that B-bomb site. 2 quick kills. And Renner, he's running around with a scout. He's that confident he can hit the shots, but even able to swap to the Deeg for the kill. And Aleph.im, again, it's another round where it might just be a bitter pill to swallow. Do you think about the economy for future rounds? Alox seems to have other intentions. Okay,
They have been stopped in their tracks, though. Yes, indeed. A great shot from Redder, and I think that pretty much seals the deal The final frag coming in as well. 7 rounds in a row. Utrust looking pretty unstoppable. The money, of course, starting to get a bit out of control on a couple individuals. Maybe a few too many of them dying. They're having some fun with deagles as well. As one throws an AK out of the map. I'm reliably informed that decoy com pernas, I'm going to do it in English so I don't butcher it, translates to decoy with legs. So that's
Ah.
quite funny, to be fair. Nice little comedy name. It's a spicy off angle here from Moshi for sure. Renner pushing up middle with the deagle as well. Going to find success onto Dio. A very fast round once again here from Utrust. We've got a Nova in apartments. Let's have this see some action. Does drop 1, but of course now the element of surprise is gone. The position known, and therefore I think the Nova should be easily dealt with. It's a hard weapon to make work, and you can have a few awkward exchanges. Here we go. Does manage to find another one on it. Swaps across to the M4, making the round a little more doable and really giving the CT side a bit of a chance into this round.
Yeah, pressuring them. They made this choice themselves. Deagles and Scouts is how Utrust want to approach this round, and so far still working out in their favor. OBJ with another. Moshe a long rotate from the B bomb site with the Scout in hand. So Keck is kind of left out here on an island. Doesn't have a kit, doesn't have a smoke to make things easier moving into the bomb site. Could just go for damage, but they're already so far ahead. Keck getting 1. But no, that AK is not going to get saved into the fallout round here for Aleph.im. Didn't seem like the intention was to retake the site. Utrust get it done with pistols. A little bit of stride to their step as they just take confident fights, spamming the Deeg away. And really just, I mean, even with the surprise of the Nova, it didn't seem to rattle them all too much.
It certainly seems on the Aleph side that there's always an individual having a moment. Maybe not always, but, you know, in a fair few rounds, we've seen the likes of Alox and Keck in the previous round, and even rounds before that, do some damage. But unfortunately for Aleph, there's not enough support at the moment. That seems to be the biggest issue. You can't always rely on your individuals, particularly in a game like this where Utrust are, I would say, very rarely going to fall flat to a super strong individual. The XM10 leading the way. However, it's Fipsy on the other side of things who's the master. He does manage to get 1, almost the double. It's set up for Keck, however. There's a lot of damage done here. They're charging him with the shotguns. Down goes Keck. That's a key frag to be finding. Now Fipsy hiding in and around this coffin smoke. Going to try and go for it. Gets taken down, though. Maybe jumps the gun a little bit too early. And Utrust will gain themselves that man advantage and a bomb plant to work with. It was looking dicey for just a second. But it seems they've recovered things back. Maybe speaking too soon. No, doesn't matter. Rena's got some great crosshair placement this game.
Yeah, they're all just treating this as a bit of a training session, it feels like at times. I mean, I don't know what chaos we've unlocked by Utrust being so far ahead. A almost full XM buy for them on the T side, and then just running into a counter XM for Aleph.im. This is getting all types of wacky. And now dualies are out, alongside more auto shotguns here for the T side. I thought they were going through almost like a checklist of different guns that they could win the round with, if there was some sort of
strat roulette.
Yeah, it could have well been.
Yeah. I think they've got to be a little bit careful, though. They are going to give some room back to the CT side, obviously using the weaker weaponry. That's not the cleanest of fights. I would certainly be saying 1 Deeg after that, you know, being a funny guy. But the A-bomb site has fallen very sharply indeed. They tried to compensate the B-bomb site, played 3 over there, and, well, it's the wrong guess. So 4 on 3 after that frag, but I think with the bomb going down, your rotators being very far away, no information, no real control of anywhere on A. You know, it's very hard to get back in here, and yet the auto shotgun goes charging in. Actually runs past one. We got a Zeus from prison. I was going to say he's up to something a little spicy. Finds another kill on the XM10, and the 10th round for Utrust is secured.
Well, I know that you and me were kind of talking a little bit before we got on camera. It's about, you know, this could be a one-sided fight. And it is, but I didn't expect it to be like this. We're getting negevs, shotguns, players just refusing to buy anything other than a deagle. You know, this is they're almost trying to rub salt in the wound that they understand that they are going to push themselves into the finals.
Yeah, I think this is certainly the more one-sided affair that we've had. There was a little bit of this in their game against Ocean Protocol, but as kind of mentioned in the pregame, they had to check it, you know, and they had to really approach the game properly to take them down. And I just think, unfortunately, Aleph, they've got some good individuals, but there's a few too many cracks in terms of the individuals, and then also just structurally, there's not enough of a setup. Then you're starting on the CT side of things as well, where the economy comes into play, and we have seen a bit of disarray between that. Dio, this time around, is buying. Last time, you know, was just the money bags. It's certainly a step up, but still, you know, getting the utility, maybe getting a stronger weapon when you've got 8k in the bank or whatever
Can they
would
do
be
it
good.
with scouts? This is now another thing on the checklist, right? They've had a few scouts kicking about, but now they've made the full team commitment to go for it. And they're going to get caught off by Alox. A bit of an off angle being held and that site being taken. And missed shots here on the scout makes it so much more doable here for Alox. They actually line up, but they're finally landing the tags. And now the rotation, it's Rena. Of course. He's been hitting so many shots on Deegs, on scouts, in clutch rounds. It doesn't matter. He doesn't even have to scope in. Who needs it?
That's insane. That is absolutely insane. Fipsy here on the close edge of the smoke. Again, as you can see, you know, the rotations from Moshi and Dio a little bit slow. And time is of the essence here. Fipsy gets tagged through the smoke, I believe. And might just look to, again, back off. That's kind of a key one to find. The second as well, pretty big. Actually gives him a chance. Back in! What is that? Fipsy with the round of his life. Going to get the first round on the board for Aleph.im. Got a kit as well to boot to make sure that the defuse is in nice and clean. And, well, it is a long road ahead, Michael, but I think they have certainly saved themselves from total embarrassment.
Yeah, it goes from almost lost cause to suddenly he finds a couple of kills, and then that quick trade away to the scout was chef's kiss. Really, just Utrust getting a little bit overconfident, and that's something that we saw in a couple of the earlier rounds as well. You know, pushing through smokes at B and then losing to the 5-7, and then, you know, they do subsequently win the clutch, but this time just too tall in order. Very strong round from Phipps. Maybe this could bring up the confidence levels a bit. We've been talking a bit about how the motivation might falter just a little bit, but finding the opening kill, but losing a couple players in transition. Okay, OBJ just taking so much space away and being a ruthless man on the Deagle. Had a bomb site. Also tantalizing, but still a 2-on-2 with that kill from Phipps.
Bomb goes down. Renu's got to stay alive here. God damn, that's such a tight angle to find the immediate 1D. Dio going to try and go for it. Gets tapped through the wall and is left on 4 HP.
Yeah, I'd be scared too. I'd run.
Yeah, I'd be running, but that certainly to me looks wacky that Renu hits the hardest shots, you know, of the round so far, then misses the easy ones. But Dio, unfortunately, does not recognize his impending doom.
Right,
I think the Zeus is on the way. Again, are we going to get another one? They are looking for the Zeus's all game long. Surely someone's got to come to him that he's behind, but he's
right
not
behind
noticed. Oh, my goodness. He turns around and gets Zeus. That's cruel. That is absolutely cruel. Playing with your food.
Don't do him like that. But, I mean, fully in the same position. You know, you're sort of peering into the angle slowly, trying to gauge whether Rena is still holding the angle, and then you just get your bell rung through the edge of a wall. Yeah, I'm running right for the hills. But a really dominant half. I think it's maybe even a bit disingenuous to say dominant. It has been a complete thrashing thus far. With some, you know, minor positives. They're still getting kills on some crucial players here on Aleph.im, but it hasn't been enough to hold on to these sites. But now it's the Bison buy. It might be.
Yeah, we'll have to see. They do have a bit of an advantage here. There's kind of turmoil over on B with where they need to go. We'll eventually figure out that it's the B-bomb site. Fipsy here on the XM10 seems to be doing quite well on this. Gets great timing onto Decoy as well, leaving it all onto Renner. on the Deagle. Thought we were on a Bison round. Missing shots, though. A little rare here, and the gap beginning to close. The XM10 will take him down. Aleph move into their second round. It's not clean. It's a little dicey, but they're happy to get another on the board, I'm sure.
And I love it. It's Phipps again that retakes that A bomb site pretty much by himself, and then when his teammates come in at sort of comedic timing straight afterwards, like, we're here to help. But he's already won the round for them. So the 2 rounds that they have got to their name, credit them to Phipps a lot. Of course, Keck did get a crucial, and I think Alox as well, crucial set of kills to make the numbers not so heavy, at least on that site take. But this half, I mean, 12-3 is redeemable. There are still ways that you can sort of leverage that into the second half. But I am still certainly worried. At some point, Utrust may just decide that the games are up, and instead they're going to go for something different. But they just run down with Glocks. It's not even buys on a few of the players. They invest in armor, but that's about it, and they still take the site.
Yeah, just charging in. I mean, honestly, I would argue that your Glocks are a little easier to use than the Bison, to be honest. Either way, looking good. Closing the gap into a lot of players here. Keck trying to fight back. An awkward angle to deal with. It's all going to be left onto Moshi. He's towards CT, but gets dealt with, gets taken down. 13-2 on the half for Utrust. Very, very dominant stuff indeed. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's, well, it's hard to look at, but at the same time, you can't look away. It's kind of like a burning car.
Yeah, I mean, he had 25 kills. That's Rena. That's been running around with the Deagle just being a complete nuisance. He had 25 kills in the first half. He's, again, and a lot of that's a testament to just the strong crosshair placement he's kind of shown thus far. He's holding angles and then hitting the shot as they move into them. I mean, it doesn't get... It sounds so much easier on paper, but the execution has been really on point.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We will have our second AMA coming up, of course, with Philippe from Utrust shortly. But yeah, to just kind of continue, I think it's so hard to be on the end of. You know, they were looking at relatively good, to be fair, in the initial kickoff, as it were, the initial few rounds. Then they lost that 1v4, then they lost that 1v3. And I think from there, it's very hard to recover position. Even when, you know, we're here for a bit of fun, we're here for, you know, casual competition, it's still very hard to bounce back from that. But before we get into our AMA, we've got a VOD, we've got a little VT here from the Utrust guys. All right, welcome back, folks. I am joined here by Philippe from Utrust, not Jonathan from Aleph.im, but we'll get that changed shortly. Indeed, but yeah, Philippe joining us once again. Thank you very much for giving us some of your time, my friend.
Pleasure to be here, guys.
All right, so once again, to highlight for you guys, if maybe you are just joining us, we're going to be taking questions from the chat. So do be sure to shoot a few questions in that I'll be selecting a little later on. But the first question I've got for you here, I suppose with the rising price of UTK, it might get a little difficult, you know, to buy larger portions of tokens and whatnot, as things are getting a little more expensive. Would it maybe like make sense for big holders of tokens to possibly be able to lend some of those, or maybe have rewards that people could win?
Yeah, that's a very interesting concept. However, it has some challenges. Feature-wise, we have started to reverse stake UTK in the wallet, and we are looking to expand the utility scope beyond it with actually another tier. This will provide an additional avenue to stake with different rewards and a cool-looking metal card. On the merchant side, we're also exploring a new strong utility that we believe have a major impact on our value proposition. making us stand out among the competition.
There you go. There you go. So, do you guys have anything in place that might allow local businesses to get set up with Utrust?
Well, we don't have a public system for referrals, but most of our merchants are actually already doing this and being rewarded with a TK.
Right. Okay. Okay. It's all very interesting to me. You know, it seems like a really cool concept that you guys have got going on. How are you reacting to the new Shopify app? Will there maybe be any integration with those guys?
Yeah, we actually, for our Shopify app, we have hundreds of applications and we are actually filtering those accordingly right now. This is similar to other enrollment periods that we had for other plugins such as Magento and WooCommerce. It will be available very soon, guys.
Okay, well there you go. Got a question in from the chat here that I think I'm going to throw in. Maybe just a very brief idea of what you guys have got planned in the near future.
Yeah, so I think in the overall, while traditional companies in all sectors are now starting to integrate cryptocurrencies, their approach is actually radically different from us, either as an asset diversification or processing within a closed ecosystem. Let's take the example of PayPal or Revolut. As a user, you cannot send or receive cryptocurrency outside of their own system. You can only purchase and sell inside their app and cannot take control of your private keys. You are not really interacting with the blockchain. Funds are locked in this ecosystem. In Utrust, this does not happen as we process payments on-chain. Users can send funds from any wallet they own and see the on-chain confirmation of their transaction. Both models and philosophies are completely different. Utrust does not want to close users on a single ecosystem, but rather be the definition of a decentralized and open platform in a global economy. Any wallet in the world works with Utrust. Users are free to hold, store, manage their own money, and pay for goods and services without having to be locked in a walled garden. This is the true vision of Satoshi Nakamoto and is the pure definition of decentralization. This, my friends, is the future.
There you go. There you go. I think we'll leave it on that. I mean, that kind of answers the last question. Unless you've got anything else to add to possible users, possible investors that might be worried about how they can get involved, might be worried about some of the bigger companies that are, as you mentioned, PayPal, right? That are getting involved. Is there anything else that you would say to them to encourage them to get involved with Utrust?
Yeah, I think it's very clear where we stand in the market, and from the previous description, I think we have a clear standing. We are different from the other companies out there, and we have a vision. And our vision, it's going to continue. We're going to evolve, and we're going to continue to persevere and grow in the market. Check us out, follow us on our channels, and go to utrust.com to know more about our products. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Keep following us.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Philippe, once again for your time. And it seems like you guys are smashing it in the game. So I would wish you luck, but you don't necessarily need it, as things are going very, very well at the minute.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Yes, indeed. So Philippe, once again, giving us a really good insight into Utrust, what they're all about, and some of the upcoming plans that they have got. Just to remind you guys, we do have these MVP prizes available that have been provided by Chain Guardians. Once again, shout out to them. Shout out to Robbie. Don't know if he's here, but he's here in spirit for sure. Certainly one of the nicest guys that I've chatted to for a long time. He had a lot to say as well about what Chain Guardians are all about, and obviously showing off these blockchain collectibles for, well, I guess your viewing pleasure, but also, of course, for the players to get involved with. Sushi Chef Rio, again, got to attack it really slowly because I did fumble over it very badly the first time I said it. And Hero, which is a little easier to say. Some of those, I believe, in-game Guardians as well that you're going to be able to play as. Really, really interesting idea that maybe if you are like Michael and I, a little less familiar with the blockchain industry, a game surrounded by it, is certainly a really cool idea.
I just still can't get over the end line for that little AMA. It's just, this is the future. Like that is very much where a lot of sort of maybe not startups, but a lot of sort of visionary speak comes from, and it is certainly, I mean, if I'm thinking about it, right, like I will always go to a specialist as opposed to somebody that is branching into things that are newer because they're newer. So it is. I don't think there should be much concern in that respect. But it is always very interesting when we get these sort of different approaches to how to integrate within the sort of blockchain ecosystem, right? I mean, like you were saying, even with Chain Guardians, just the idea of having a sort of game concept as opposed to, maybe some sort of different trading platforms is in itself just a bit more interactive for those that are, like you said, like you or I, that are a little bit less familiar.
Yeah, bridging the gap. I think bridging the gap certainly. And there's a lot to be learned. Hopefully, should be just about ready to get back into the game here. Just kind of on the players at this point, waiting for them to get set up. But to provide the context for you guys, of course, if you are perhaps just joining us or you have a short-term memory problem, it is Utrust up against Aleph.im. It's 13-2 at the turn of the half in favor of Utrust, and well, they have been kind of dominating. They've maybe given a bit of room across to Aleph.im for those 2 rounds as well. What with the fact that they were buying Bisons, just using Glocks, etc., etc. Into this round, as you can see, a new meta forming as we have Zeus with the Julies, backed up by a flash so they can rush middle. It's going relatively well. Rena with the shots once again has looked so incredibly crisp all game long, and I think is looking to get this final nail of the coffin started and perhaps finished off in the next couple of rounds.
Oh, they clear the flank, and they try to get the Zeus kill, and it's actually OBJ at a distance that does finish off the job. They did seem like they had some intentions of considering, but just continuing what they were doing in previous rounds, where they were sort of, playing a bit more laid back, going for different approaches, going for different buys. Just seeing these different approaches has been interesting in some respects, but OBJ has come to simply win. I mean, they're close enough now where, that pistol round, it could matter. Aleph.im could just find a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
I'm trying to remain very optimistic about
Yes,
what the possibilities are, because Aleph.im, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. They have been getting battered, bruised, kicked, and all sorts. They are crouch walking all the way down middle, and they've found 2 kills. I mean, a third on top of that. I mean, there's nothing really more to say. The bomb is now separated via the T steps, as Dio is the only one that has made its way into the bomb site, and he is about to walk back into what is a complete firing squad of crabs.
It's a little cheesy. There's a team kill in there as well. But it does feel all but inevitable. And, I think, unfortunately for Aleph, it feels like pick your poison. Do you want this kind of cheesy, corny approach where they're, rubbing it in a little bit? Or do you want them to play properly and just literally give you no chance into the round at all, Unfortunately, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. You really have to pick something and roll with it. We've got another little crab walk here, another little centipede moving down banana with the USPs
now. Yeah.
Silent but deadly.
Oh my god, one of them's reloading out in the open, but he's got enough teammates right behind him that doesn't matter. This is, again, just a complete level of destruction over towards Banana, and the SMGs swing out. The first set of kill doesn't go well, but Phipps, try as he might, there is just far too many of them. 16-2, the most dominant scoreline that we have had so far in Exeedme, and I don't know what to say about it, to be honest. I think that's one that would likely be pushed aside. Utrust, again, they've got professional level players within their squad. It does feel as though they use that to their full advantage. But even some of the people we weren't talking about really popping off, right? We're commenting on crosshair placement and just how sharp they were on deagles, scouts, bisons. It didn't matter what weapon that they had in their hand. It seemed like this was always going to be their game to lose.
Yeah, ultimately, I think even off the back of maybe your opponent not quite being to the same caliber by any stretch of your imagination, right? There was still some really nice individual moments in there. So it's kind of cool to see. And yeah, sure, towards the end, it got a little bit cheesy. But like I say, I think when they got 10 rounds in, and had pretty much all of them. I think they did, right? It was like 11-0 before Aleph were able to get around on the board, I think.
Yeah.
So when it gets to that point, you kind of have to say, okay, I think the game's probably ours here. Again, by virtue of how they've been winning the rounds, it's not always to say that when it's 10-0, the game is over. Certainly not the case, but just when it's like, I've been running in and killing 3 people on my own with no utility or anything of the sort, just like, out aiming, being faster than my opponents, it's pretty hard to give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe they might come back here and close the gap. So there were some nice rounds early on, and they did win a couple, obviously, but things just fell apart very, very quickly. And adaptation has been a difficult aspect for a lot of these teams.
Well, I think it's even just apparent that there are some very fresh faces in terms of who's actually playing in the Aleph.im side, right? I mean, you can see just based on just some of the movement and some of the awareness, right? It didn't seem like that was ever a real question when it came down to Utrust. Everybody seemed to have some idea of what to do in most instances. But I mean, people picking up the game for the first time, I can only give credit to you. That's how everybody starts, and that's exactly where honestly, in a way, I would like to be again, because just that's how you fall in love with a game. Even though it can be a little bit disheartening to lose in a fashion like this, you're not typically against opponents that feel as though they're maybe 10 rungs up the ladder from where you're starting. So there is a part of me that's sort of looking to be the internal dad monologue of keep with it. I'd really like the CS community, although it can sometimes get into dicey territories, is always very welcoming, and it is a fantastic space to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be a great little storyline to see them come back, and have some of these players. Because just for me, from a couple weeks ago when we saw them play first, there has been some improvements into some of those individual players, the likes of Moshi and Dio, who looked very uncomfortable in their first matchup, and perhaps, fed into the lead to the double overtime and all that. They looked a little better this time around. It's, again, an unfortunate opponent to come up against. Maybe they would have had a chance any other team in the bracket, but, that's obviously the way that things go down. Do believe we will have our MVP graphic. I'm not so sure. I think you might have a bit of an idea of who it is, but it is, of course, going to be Rena for this one. Really, really well played. Some great individual moments and just fantastic on the deagle. OBJ close behind, but I think for me it was like clutch moments and just the way in which he was getting those kills as well. They were so crisp.
Is so consistent, and now he gets to put his name on the sushi chef Rio instead of sushi chef Rena. He can maybe start to alter the game. I don't know if that affects the value in any respects, but it's close enough at the very least. But I don't think there was much question because of, I mean, OBJ, he did win a 1v4, but Rena was just hitting so many crisp shots consistently that you could basically win the round off that alone.
Yeah, that's certainly the way that it felt, to be honest with you. And I am excited to see them move on. I think Umbrella Academy, of course, who will be facing off against them, not Umbrella Academy, Umbrella Network, who will be facing off against them in the finals. Really, really strong contenders as well. They've got a good couple of players there and another team that have a solid structure. So it's going to be a close final, I think, to be honest with you. And again, if we end up on one of these Puggier type maps, maybe a Dust 2, maybe a Mirage, where an individual can take over, then we might end up seeing Utrust, get checked a little bit. They've not yet had that confidence checked massively. The game that they played against Ocean Protocol early on, yeah, it was a little bit shaky. They were like, okay, we can't just run it down mid, but they still played kind of loose. And then obviously into the semi-final, they were pretty unorthodox, let's say, with their approach to things. So I think certainly going into the final, Umbrella Network will give them a solid run for their money. And if they're not careful, might end up upsetting them a bit.
Yeah, I mean, even we saw it in this game, right, where they were so dominant. Aleph.im contested them pretty heavily and got themselves into some really strong round-winning positions, only for then Utrust to clutch up and somehow win the round. So I definitely agree. If they sort of come in with that same approach, then there's definitely that capacity where even though I would still maybe set them as that favorite, they can get caught off guard, and like you said, then the ball can get rolling from there.
Yes, indeed, indeed. But look, I think that's going to be it from us for this evening. It has been a quicker one than expected for sure. Utrust were always the favourites, but certainly a bigger fight expected, I suppose, from Aleph.im. I guess it is just that Utrust are on such a high level. But I really want to thank you for coming on, Yumi. It's always a pleasure to cast alongside you, my friend.
Yeah, yourself as well, man. This has been sort of educational for me in a lot of ways. There's a lot of things I haven't heard of before, some that I have, but at the very least, I'm curious to see how the Utrust guys fare and whether they keep that sort of same level of dominance. You know, I'm going to be sort of peering in. I'll be lurking, see how that pans out.
Yeah. Well, like I say, that is going to be it from us. We'll be back next Wednesday, about 9:30 Central European. The times are due to change, you know, what with these guys obviously working full-time jobs and all that kind of stuff. But do be sure, get that in your calendar, get following the channel. Make sure you're there. It'll be another fresh face alongside me, right? Because everybody's busy these days, but I am going to be here. So make sure that you guys are here as well. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Exeedme, a revolutionary platform that allows athletes to compete and earn money in real time. Wherever they are in the world, they can be playing their favorite game, pushing players to the limit. Exeedme puts players competing against each other, measuring and evaluating their performance, taking them to a new reality. With our platform, you just need to choose your favorite game and place your bet. Exeedme will find the perfect opponent for you, matching your skills and experience according to your ranking. Know more about your emotions. Learn how to be more focused, more accurate, faster. Take it to another level. Exceed yourself and win. Exeedme, the evolution of competition.
Exeedme é uma revolução para jogadores amadores e profissionais. Podemos jogar, ganhar dinheiro e entender o nosso desempenho ao longo do jogo. Posso comparar a Exeedme a empresas como a PokerStars, que trouxeram a possibilidade aos jogadores de viverem de algo que até ali era um hobby e melhorar as suas habilidades enquanto fazem algo que adoram.